Hello, everyone. Welcome to CXO Spice. CXO Spice is a platform for thought leaders to share their point of view on innovation and explain how to make it happen in real world. I'm your host, Helen Yu, and today we have the pleasure of having two esteemed guests from Splunk, Mala Palutla and Derek Dykens. Mala is the GVP of Global Observability Strategy. Derek is Global Retail and Hospitality Advisor. We will be delving into the world of digital resilience, exploring its importance during high traffic events, and gaining some insights from Splunk's recent digital resilience study. Let's first welcome Mala and Derek. Hello, Mala and Derek.
Hi, Helen.
Hello.
Hello. Before we dive into our discussion, could you share your tech journey and your role at Splunk? Let's begin with Mala.
Sure. Thanks, Helen. It's great to be here and thanks for having us. My journey in technology actually was accidental. My first role was working with software to automate corporate taxes. That's right, to automate taxation for companies. And what stood out to me very early in my career was the ability for technology to compress and reduce that complexity and bring about efficiency so our customers could actually focus on the core business instead of filing taxes. And that really intrigued me. And my journey continued from there. My next role was in management consulting. And the focus was how could I use technology to help our customers modernize, transform, and in some cases, innovate their customer business model to increase profitability for the company. In other words, how does technology drive better business outcomes? Fast forward to now, like you said, at Splunk, I lead the global observability, GTM, and business, working with some fantastic customers who are both innovative and in hypergrowth, and also in a market that's evolving quite rapidly. So we're very excited today to share our view of digital resilience.
Wow, so delighted to have you here, Mala. And thank you. Derek, what about you?
Yeah, thanks, Helen. Excited to be here as well. So my tech journey actually started, geez, when I was a kid back home, probably opening up our first computer. And I think just, being curious, trying to understand how all of it was happening as our house for the first time was connected to the internet. It eventually went on to study technology 15 years ago, had the opportunity to work for Target, where then I fell in love with retail technology specifically. So worked on a lot of different omni-channel, projects with Target and started to understand just the behind the scenes of how retail really works at a larger scale. Had the opportunity to go on and work for Cisco, where I was able to meet with a lot of different retailers and help kind of guide them on their strategy towards digital transformation, mostly focused on infrastructure projects and some data analytics as well. And then more recently, I've been at Splunk for 4 years, leading the retail and hospitality team here, really kind of setting forth our go-to-market for the industry, understanding really how our retailers and hospitality customers can get the most value out of the Splunk platform. If you know Splunk, there's a lot of different things that you can do with it. And our customers always tend to surprise us, delight us with the different ways that they've figured out how to use it.
Well, I've been a long time of Splunk user, so delighted to have both of you here today. And Splunk actually recently conducted a digital resilience study emphasizing the importance of the resilience during high traffic events. Could you elaborate on why resilience is so crucial for businesses, especially during the peak times? Derek, I'll have you start first.
Sure. Thanks, Ellen. I think if we look over just the last, I don't know, even 5, 6 years, the landscape when it comes to digital has changed so much. It's quite interesting. So I think as that changes, right, the experience have become more advanced, they become more personalized. In retail, we say they become a lot more frictionless and seamless. There's also a lot more opportunity for issues to arise, right? So if you were to look at maybe slow performance or not having every click work as you would expect it to work, or trying to submit your payment and running into issues during I would say like high season or a high peak event. the risks are even larger, right? So when you look at a retailer and the revenue that they can drive during specific seasons, maybe Cyber Monday, Black Friday, the holiday specifically is a really important time for them. And so ensuring that you have full observability of all the different things that could, potentially go wrong, and having the teams and technologies in place to quickly respond to those and fix those is really critical to make sure that your customers are staying loyal and that you're getting every potential sale.
Anything to add here, Mala?
Yeah, I mean, Derek said it well. For me, a lot of our customers ask about what is digital resilience? How do I define it for our company? And for me, I always define it as, it's simple. It's the ability to recover and thrive when there is disruption and quickly adopt to new operating models during, like Derek mentioned, high traffic events like Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And where observability plays a key role here is companies that are doing this today with good observability practices are able to find and fix problems faster, ensure reliability of their critical business application, and also build the right customer experience aligned to their customer needs. So that's how I would define digital resilience.
I love that. That's shifting from being reactive to being proactive. Right. Yeah. Is there any unexpected insights or trends emerged from analyzing the data in the digital resilience study, and how did they impact business strategies?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the, I would say, focus around these digital experiences became super important during the pandemic. So if we look back at 2020, very quickly, a lot of the retailers had to make a decision around, what types of services am I going to enable digitally that in the past may have always been a physical experience, and how am I going to get my products, my services to any customer, new or old, in the safest way possible while protecting, my associates and all the things that go along with it. And so I think there was so much innovation that occurred so quickly, and retailers were really in a race to figure out really who could, I would say, develop and deploy those experiences the fastest to kind of grab the new market share of these customers who for the first time may have been shopping online or were kind of forced to transact digitally. And so if we just look back at how I think customers respond to digital back in 2017, just looking at a recent study, I think it was within 3 seconds, if the browser hadn't loaded, 40% of customers would abandon. Now looking at last year, that same study, if it takes more than 2 seconds, I believe it was like 87% would abandon a website. So in a short amount of time, you're more than doubling the amount of abandonments because the page just isn't loading within a couple seconds. And so the expectation of the customer has clearly evolved, and a lot of the retailers, the hospitality, companies out there, I mean, they're trying to respond in a very innovative way that at the end of the day, they can still, manage and monitor and provide the best possible experience that's always reliable. Mala, did you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, well said, Derek. I mean, the outcomes of digital resilience aren't new concept, right? I mean, we've seen these outcomes and around having resilience around your critical applications for many, many years now. And to what Derek said, why is it so hard today? And what we've seen is as organizations have moved to the cloud, that increased pace of innovation to ship software more often, it becomes really hard to validate the impact of the changes that software can do, both to the business model and to the customer experience. Here's what I mean. I was working with a customer recently, and this customer represents a mid-sized company here in the US, and they had 27 tools to monitor different parts of their tech stack. So as teams adopt these disconnected tools, it creates these data silos, right? So it makes it harder to diagnose when we launch new software code, when there is a system or service degradation. How do I find that root cause? Which system, which application, which network, which database is causing that degradation? Increasingly, most likely, we also are missing critical signals, like when there's a failure or an error or an outage, most likely it goes unnoticed due to these data silos. And the impact of not having a digital resilience strategy, it impacts both the top and bottom line in a few ways. One, it slowed growth and profitability as teams are spending more time firefighting instead of fireproofing and building new software. Two, it creates operational inefficiencies because now you have disconnected tool chains. And last but not least, which is critical to Derek's point, it also creates poor customer experience because when it takes too long to diagnose and fix a problem, customers churn and the company's reputation takes a hit. So it's critical from our view at Splunk to have a strong digital resilience strategy.
Very well said, both of you. I mean, although it's very easy to be said than done, right? Having the right digital resilience strategy. So I can relate to what Derek said, 2-second delay. I'm done with the website, right? I move to another one. So that's the era. Welcome to the era of on-demand. Speaking of that, what key strategies or preparations did successful companies implement before traffic peaks to ensure resilience in their system or operations? Mala, can you address this one?
Yeah, my view is observability plays a very key role here. As our customers, and when we spend time with our customers, as they've matured their observability practices, most often the observability practices mature because our customers are changing or transforming their business model. For example, what they had to do during COVID. They typically tell us that there are three things that matter to create resilient system, especially when it comes to customer experiences. The three things most often are: one, Mala, we need unified visibility across any environment and any stack. This could be on-prem systems, hybrid systems, or cloud-native systems. Two, they want early detection and investigation of business impacting issues. Ideally, the ability to predict when there's going to be degradation in a critical service or predict an outage before it happens. And we believe AI and ML will and started to play a critical role here. And last but not least, in this macroeconomic environment, companies want efficient solutions for these complex problems. So they want better control of their data and costs. So these three themes, Helen, are a recurring ask from our customers when we talk about how do you build those resilient systems to address some of these peak traffic seasons.
Just to recap, Mala, unified visibility, right? Early detection, predictability, and efficient solution to control your data. Those are the three things companies should look at that. Speaking of that, how important is adaptability in handling unexpected surge in traffic, Derek?
Yeah, I think so. When we're meeting with our retailers, it's always about expecting the unexpected. So I think, to Mala's point, there are strategies that you can put in place, processes and governance that give you kind of the best shot at having a very stable peak season. And so, in retail, we start to work with our customers, as early as summer, if we're talking about an October or an early November freeze period for a lot of the changes that they're making. And we're sitting there right there with them to understand, how our system's going to auto scale, what visibility do you need when it comes to, early detection. So Mala made a great point. Imagine you're a grocery retailer and it's the day before Thanksgiving, and you start to have some issues with your point of sale registers. Do you want your store team to have to pick up the phone and call, or do you want your IT team to see that and have an operational process in place to start to go proactively remediate those, or even have some self-healing capabilities? So there's a lot of things that you can do around early detection, predictability, that help you when some of these unexpected surges happen. So let's say, again, you're a pizza company and it's the Super Bowl and you're seeing the traffic that you'd expect, but then maybe the website for a competitor pizza company goes down. Now, all of a sudden, your traffic is going to double in addition to what you were already expecting it from that surge. And so again, having the right visibility and being able to look around the corners before issues arise is super critical. Otherwise, you might be sitting there right with your competitor with a website that's not working and unable to take orders. And so we really try to look at all angles of observability and how we can really bring the best of that telemetry data together to, in some ways, make new insights that they never thought they could, even see.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more, Derek. So no matter how well you are prepared, challenges are inevitable during peak traffic, right? How has Splunk helped customers address or mitigate to maintain operational stability? Could you share some stories, Derek?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we we have a bunch of stories. I think one that kind of would resonate because we've been talking a lot about Black Friday. This is specific to I would say a general merchandise kind of big box retailer who had a lot of specials running on their website. And, they specifically started to have some issues with the pricing service. So imagine you're, hitting their website and prices aren't loading for specific products. You're not seeing the promotions applied. I mean, that's why people shop Black Friday. So for us, being able to kind of get ahead of that in a predictive nature and monitoring that pricing service and saying, hey, right now things look healthy, but then even being able to kind of dissect what that service means. So the complexity of the service, where all the tie-ins were to maybe some monolithic infrastructure, third-party services, really being able to tie it all together and quickly find kind of the needle in the haystack of why the pricing service wasn't acting as expected, potentially save that retailer, tens of $1 millions an hour. And so being able to tie it back to kind of those value statements is also really critical as you look to do peak season planning the next year, having kind of those wins under your belt and being able to say, hey, our observability strategy is working. Here's some things that we were able to avoid from a, lost revenue perspective. There's a bunch of different angles that you can take from a reduction in incidents or the amount of time people are spending on the phone with your, stores troubleshooting issues. All of it can come together to create a really strong narrative to support kind of the innovations that the teams are looking to do around observability.
Well, tens of millions in a couple hours, that's significant impact. Mara, anything else to add here?
No, I think Derek summed it well, right? And retail is an industry that's fast moving, both from a market perspective as well as an innovation perspective. And what we provide at Splunk is a couple of technology capabilities that's unique to Splunk. And if I am a retailer, there are two things that I would like to do to make sure my critical applications are, have a good observability monitoring strategy. One, I don't want any issues. I want the ability to have early detection and investigation of business impacting issues. And Splunk uniquely offers that ability for IT ops, engineering, and security teams to diagnose problems across any environment with our unstructured data at petabyte scale, which is what most of retailers are asking us for. And second, if I can't prevent an issue before it happened, once there is an issue, Splunk, can you provide us guided root cause analysis so we can resolve it quickly? So those are the two asks that complement some of the retail industry's asks and use cases with Splunk.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Actually, that's a great segue for the next question. I was going to ask you about the role of technology in maintaining digital resilience. You said it really well. I'd love you to discuss some specific technological solutions or innovations that really proved effective in handling the increased load on systems.
Yeah, a couple of things come to mind, Helen. One is, again, I want to box it in, hey, can you help me prevent and detect an outage and an issue that's going to impact my business? And what we uniquely do here at Splunk is we make it easy to bring unstructured data, like I mentioned earlier, at petabyte scale. We can help customers actually search and analyze it and turn it into visualizations and insights that anyone in the organization can understand and take action on. So you're not waiting for an IT ops engineer or an SRE to actually look at this data and to act on it. Whether it's monitoring your most critical, important business KPIs or just investigating an unplanned outage, Splunk can dynamically create and generate visualizations out of the box. The second one is, okay, I do have an issue or a degradation or an outage. Splunk, how can you help us resolve it? And we are unique here in we provide real-time detection with guided root cause analysis. Also, we provide business context when we're actually troubleshooting some of the logs, metrics, and trace files. And we tell you where to look at, how you need to resolve the issue, and also we provide the capability to resolve the issue and remediate where that issue occurred. And last but not least, we are also innovating in the AI and ML space. And we recently launched what we call event correlation capabilities. Think about it, right? When you have an issue, you have tons of alerts, tons of log files, tons of traces, and tons of metric files. You just don't know what you need to do. So we use AI and ML capabilities. We call it Smart Mode ML, that allows customers to group related alerts that share similar capabilities that are tied to an underlying issue so we can resolve it quickly before it happens. Last but not least, we just launched predictive analytics using behavioral health scores to identify potential service disruptions that potentially can resolve a disruption even before it happens 30 minutes in advance. So some of these capabilities that we're innovating for the retail space is unique to Splunk.
Wow, that's profound. I mean, Derek, anything else to add here?
Yeah, I think the only other thing I would add in, first of all, I mean, AI is huge, right? So I would say when we're talking to our retail customers, they're all trying to figure out how AI can intersect with their broader observability strategy and kind of add value in new ways. Another topic that, has been very popular as of late would be really focused around investments in edge computing. And so if you think of, your traditional retailer, your quick service restaurant, all of these distributed kind of physical stores, restaurant locations, they've always been creating these like really data rich environments. However, the retailer themselves, like they've always struggled to make sense of it, right? And actually get that data. And so when you look at the interactions that are happening, whether it's from the point of sale registers, consumer, customer that's on, I guess, Wi-Fi, maybe there's IoT devices throughout the store, there can be like some really cool hidden treasures within that data. And so I think if you look at all of these different interactions, transactions as they happen at the edge and start to process those and make sense of those where they're occurring in real time, it opens up just a lot of possibilities when you talk about innovative use cases for a retailer or a quick service restaurant. The challenge with edge computing, where we really see an opportunity, and I think where we're a bit unique, is that it's also introducing a lot of new attack surfaces. So as you start to have more things happening at the edge in your stores, connected devices, obviously, fraudsters and threat actors are going to be more interested in attacking any of those attack surfaces. And so I think having observability strategy that is kind of circled in security is really important. And so the retailers that are doing that are able to innovate faster because they know that the innovations that they're deploying are secure, but then they're also able to keep them, reliable and performing as expected. So it's kind of two things happening at once, which is great from a value perspective.
Yeah, that's very well said, right? Two things happening at the same time. You want to be secure, you want the speed and convenience, and doing that with a secure environment at the edge. What are the key lessons can e-commerce leaders learn to better prepare for future high traffic events? How crucial is ongoing optimization for sustained resilience? Mala?
From my perspective, I guess, look, customers, and I'm a customer as well. I use a lot of the retail solutions to do, my own online shopping. Customers expect seamless and always on experiences. And if they don't get it, they have a choice. They will go elsewhere. And that's a reality. Disruption and innovation is inevitable. And we've all experienced that in the past 5 years. If companies want to drive outcomes on ensuring top line profitability, employee productivity, and reduce costs, they have to invest in long-term digital resilience model. I don't think, Helen, it's a choice anymore. It's an imperative these days for customers to have a long-term resilience strategy.
Absolutely agree with you. Right? It's an imperative. It's a competitive advantage as well. Derek, anything else to add here?
Yeah, I think like whenever there is a peak event, typically our retailers look back at that and say, okay, how stable were we? What happened? How could we have been better prepared? If there is an outage, it's tough because, the outage may be long lasting because you have siloed tools and you're really not able to figure out what root cause is quickly. And so, retailers can spend a lot of time just figuring out, hey, what actually happened here? Why were we down for 4 hours? How can we do it better the next time? And then when they kind of go to the drawing board, a lot of them say, well, I love my specific tool, but in that specific event, it didn't really help everyone to have their own tool. And so what I think, the dialogue is quickly changing to is how do we fail but recover faster? So what things can we put in place to know exactly what happened and know exactly what that root cause is? And so I think the retailers that are having a more cohesive observability strategy across their developers, their infrastructure teams, those are the retailers that, yeah, maybe they're having some outages, but we're not even noticing because they're recovering so quickly. And then a lot of that's due to tool consolidation, and having solid telemetry data that they're all kind of looking at the same thing. So I would say that's definitely the common theme as we come out of this past peak season and holiday. The leadership within retail, they're definitely looking at tool consolidation and how we can all be looking at the same data to make our decisions.
Yeah, that makes total sense, right? That seamless experience is so important for customers. Well, here comes to my last question. What broader industry insights can be drawn from this digital resilience study? Are there any applicable strategies or lessons that business in other sectors can adopt to bolster their resilience during peak traffic? Derek, I'm going to have you start first.
Yeah, I think the study itself kind of takes you through a bunch of different examples of Splunk customers who kind of show the before and after. What does digital resilience look like for them today? What were some of those aha moments that had, a retailer saying, "Gosh, now is the time to change and to really start to bolster our resilience in a new way." I would say, some of the lessons that I'm learning from the retail customers every day is start somewhere. I think it's a hard strategy to say, hey, we want to, roll out this new observability platform and make all these changes, because I think a lot of it is just cultural change and being able to keep up with it. So if you're able to find, one technology, one service, or a team that really is looking to innovate and is open to trying some things differently, I think that's where you can start to trickle in things like open telemetry and try some more new innovative observability things and use cases as well. So Mala mentioned some around AI, machine learning, looking at predictive analytics. A lot of retailers that I work with are very early on that journey where they're still waiting for someone at the store to pick up the phone and make the call. And so all of those phone calls from the store to say, my point of sale is down, my guest Wi-Fi went down. There's so many lessons in those specific incidents that can be learned and really help us prioritize where to get started when a retailer is starting to roll out a new observability strategy.
Thank you, Derek. Mala, could you double click on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, Derek summed it well, right? I mean, for me, if we go back to how we started this conversation, right, Derek and Helen, if digital resiliency is that ability to recover during disruption and quickly adapt to new operating models, digital resiliency is applicable to any business or industry. Like retail is just an example that we are talking today. But what COVID showed us that we have to quickly adopt to changing customer needs. And the companies that we saw that thrived are the ones that were able to adapt to these new needs. The ones that did not have the agility to create those digital experiences struggled. And these lessons, like I mentioned earlier, right, today we're talking about retail, it's applicable to any industry, any customer segment, and any market. Be it a shoe launch by one of the leading shoe companies, or creating an e-commerce website for the latest fashion apparel, or building system capacity, what Derek mentioned earlier in this conversation, for peak season during Black Friday or Cyber Sunday. My view is resilience goes hand in hand with companies' top line. So the profitability of a company is directly tied to an effective and efficient digital resilience strategy.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and insights, Mala and Derek. In concluding our discussion today, here are my 4 key takeaways. Number 1, digital resilience is vital beyond the cyber week, requiring swift problem identification across businesses, IT infrastructure, third parties. Number 2, the success stories you both highlighted really is testament of Splunk's role in optimal system performance and exceptional customer experiences. Number 3, Splunk observability practices exemplified by e-commerce leaders encompass continuous monitoring, predictive issue detection, and intelligent optimization. I think Mala and Derek, you both mentioned the key to have a unified visibility with early detection, AI, ML, capability, and then efficient way of better control your data. And lastly, for sustained digital resilience, companies require comprehensive insights, AI-driven problem identification, rapid source identification for resilience and revenue optimization in a high-traffic seasons. As we wrap up this insightful episode of CXO Spice, I'd like to extend my gratitude to Mala and Derek from Splunk for sharing their expertise on digital resilience. The lessons learned and strategies discussed today are invaluable for business across diverse sectors. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Stay hungry, stay bold, and stay grateful.
Thanks, Helen.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Helen.